with the NoSQL databases, if that's okay?
That's okay, but NoSQL database is basically first we go with the SQL, then we'll do the NoSQL on Monday. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So in a SQL database, you can create a SQL database either on a platform as a service or on a you can create a virtual machine and then install the database. That is called infrastructure as a service. Here we are not going to discuss infrastructure as a service. We are going to discuss the platform as a service. Platform as a service, it means that directly you can deploy your database and your database developer will work on that. Whatever the VM underlying, that VM is managed by Microsoft. That's why it is called a platform as a service. So in a platform as a service, you can go to the here start and then click on SQL database. And you can click on create. Give the resource group name. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And then give the database name. Database name like AZ EPO DB01. That is the name of my database. And then you have to create a server, but the server is managed by Microsoft. So click on create new. Give the server name AZ EPO DB SRB01. That is a server name. And server URL will be azepodb.database.windows.net. And then you have to give the location. So I am creating under the East Asia region. In the authentication method, you have three tabs, like you can use Azure Active Directory authentication. You can use both SQL and Azure AD. Traditionally, we use the SQL authentication, right? So here also we'll go with the SQL authentication. Select the third one, then give the SQL Server admin. So we'll use the SQL admin. Name is a SQL admin. Then password, give the password. And then click OK. So this is information about your server. Now you can also select the elastic pool. Elastic pool we will discuss later on. Basically, it is a pool of your DTU. So if your SQL database need more resource, more DTU, more RAM, more storage, it will basically borrow from the elastic pool. It will take from the elastic pool. We are not creating as of now, so we'll go with the default without elastic pool. Work environment, you can select the development or production. I am going with the development. And here you have the your size, your compute size and storage. By default, it taking the generation version 5, Gen 5 that have 1 core CPU and 32 GB of storage. I can change it from here. Click on configure database and you can change. You have the different service tier like vCore you can use like a general purpose. In a general purpose, you have the provision based like how much vCore you can use. Let's suppose you want 14 vCore with the database 822. The cost will be 2,246 GB. The log space and cost around 2,767. This one too much cost. 27,000 log cost. 27,000 around. So it's very costly because you are using 14 core CPU and 822 GB of storage. So if you don't want such big size, you can go with a smaller size also. In that case, your cost will be reduced. In that case, your cost will be reduced. Now you have other type also. You can go with a serverless. What is a serverless? Serverless means server will not assign if it is not running, so it will automatically pause. So serverless, you can assign the maximum vCore, you can assign the minimum vCore and maximum vCore you can assign. So that what happen, When the load will be increased, once the load will be increased, then it will be maximum, it will use 10 core. And when there is no load, then it will reduce the 1.25 V core. So, and it will also auto pause also. If your database is not used for 1 hour or 2 hour, database will be automatically paused. It means it will control your cost. So you are not basically uh, know how much utilization. In that case, you can use the serverless it to control the cost, to reduce your cost, right? In that case, you can go with the serverless. Other is that you can use the hyperscale. Hyperscale means if you have more utilization, you can use the hyperscale. More CPU, 80 core CPU, 240. So here you have the business critical also. If you want high availability and performance, you can go with the business critical. So you have a different types of service tier as per your requirement, as per your database criticality. You can choose as per your budget. You can choose the service tier. I am going to use the basic as of now. This one that have 2 GB of RAM and 5 DTU, cost around 384 per month. So that is enough for my demo purpose. Click apply.
So what is a DTU?
DTU is database transmission unit. So DTU basically on the DTU, your database performance will depend. So if you have more DTU, your database gives the more performance. It is a combination of your CPU and RAM. It is a hardware combination that is called DTU. If you have more DTU, it means more compute resource, more CPU, more RAM you have.
So can you show me those options again? The ones
Sure,
that you listed.
sure.
So
So
in
if you
the
go to the
drop down,
basic, here you
okay,
have a DTU.
okay.
If you want more detail about that, you can go here. You can check the DTU based purchasing model. So in DTU, it is basically combination of your CPU and memory. If
Mm-hmm.
you have more DTU, it means more CPU, more memory. So it will
Acha,
increase your database performance.
performance. Okay. Here, the concept of V cores of CPU, it's not there. It is a
Yeah,
combination of both CPU and memory.
memory, correct,
Okay. Okay.
correct. Then backup. So by default, it have the geo redundant. I don't want a geo redundant. It will increase my cost. It is just like a demo purpose. It is not a production database. Then I can select the locally. If you have a production, you can go with the geo. Networking by default, your database does not have any access, no access as of now. We'll go with the no access currently. Security. So by default, it have the very basic security like a firewall security only. If you want additional security, in that case, you can use Microsoft Defender for SQL database that have the cost around 1100 per month per server. Next, additional setting, you can go with the blank database, or you can go with the sample database, or you can go with the backup database. So these are the different types of data source you can use. I'm going with the blank database as of now. There is nothing on that. And then review and create. It is taking time. It will take few more minutes. So what it is going to do, it's basically created a SQL server here. And it also it's going to create a SQL database. So it means that two services under the provision. Servers, SQL Server and SQL database. Now it's created. Go to the resource. So this is your SQL database AZ APO DB01 and it is created on a server. The server name is AZ APO DB srb01.database.windows.net. Right? And I can connect this database by SQL Server Management Studio. So open that. So all my developer basically SQL developer, they use this client. This is a SQL Server client, SQL Server Management Studio.
So, but you said no access, no, when creating will.
Correct,
How?
correct. So we will give the access.
Okay, okay.
Correct. Good point. So it is opening and now I want to connect. In that case, I have to copy this server name. So copy that and go to the database here and give this server name and use the SQL Server authentication. Give the login SQL admin and then password. Click connect. It will not connect. It give through the error because as of now I have not given any access. So I have to go to here and set server firewall. You need to do that, set server firewall. And here right now it's a disable. Access is disable. You can enable that access. And after then, if you want, you can add your virtual machine, virtual network here so that all the VMs from that network can able to connect. Or you can add the public IP under the firewall rule. So I want to connect this server from my local system that have the public IP. And this is my public IP automatically it detect. So we'll add it my public IP. I can add multiple public IP. Let's suppose if you want to connect my database, then I have to add your public IP here. Then you can connect. And also allow other Azure services. So if I want that my storage account communicate to SQL database or data factory can communicate to SQL database or data lake, in that case, I have to allow this service. Otherwise, other Azure services will not able to connect my SQL database.
So, but one question. So, if I have a data lake storage, a storage account,
Mhm.
and I say allow Azure services to connect to the SQL database, should I add the virtual network rule also that only Azure services within this VNet should access, or
No, no,
everything
no.
not
Your
required?
data lake is also on a public. Data factory is also on public. So just you need to allow this one. There is no need to. Yeah, if you use the private endpoint, in that case, you need to add. If you are not using the public, if you are using the private endpoint, then you have to add the network.
Public endpoint of who the database or
No, no. Already your database have on a public endpoint, right? This database is on a public endpoint.
okay,
If you have your database on a private endpoint, if you are not on a public, you are on a private endpoint, then you
okay.
have to add the network.
But isn't it good practice to disallow all public access and only allow private access? Sir? How I am confused.
Good practice is that allow only private, allow
Right.
only your virtual network. Don't
Okay.
allow database on a public network.
Okay. Okay.
It is
Okay.
not recommended.
Okay.
In scenario, if you have the basically, let's suppose your database engineer is on a on-site or
Mm.
he need to connect. He is
Mm.
not in your corporate network. In
Ha.
that case, you can add his ID, his public IP here for
Mm.
a limited period of time
Okay. Okay. But ideally, in real time, what they do is they'll
on a
connect
private.
via VPN. Okay.
Yes, correct,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Got it.
And save it. So now I have allowed my public IP. 1 second, someone, 1 second. Okay. Okay, so now I have allowed this service. So go to here and then connect again. And this time it is connecting. See, it is connecting my SQL server. And on that SQL server, I have the database AZFO-DB01. After then I can create a table, whatever basically database related activity your database engineer can perform. They can create a table, they can run the query, they can also like other tasks they can perform, like they can create a new database, they can run the query, they can also take the backup from here, import data, export data, everything they can perform just like a local SQL database. Now, if I want to take the backup, so right now backup is automatically taken by the Microsoft because it is a managed service. So Microsoft take the backup automatically and you can restore. If you need, you can restore that. And this is your retention policy. So your backup data will be basically for the 7 days it have. So that is your retention policy. If you want, you can change that also. And then go to the failover or go to the your other service like I am on a SQL server. Go to the database. And on a database, you have the compute and storage. From here, you can change anytime. If you want, you can change the pricing. Similarly, you can go to the connection string. So these are the connection string. This is for the .NET. This is for the Java. This is for the ODBC, Node.js. This is for PHP. So these connection string required by your developer. So let's suppose your developer develop the application in a .NET. So .NET application need to connect the SQL database for data deployment or data write or read. In that case, you can keep this connection string to your developer. If it is on a Java, then you can use this one. If it is on a ODBC, then use this one. So this connection string is required to connect your application to the SQL database. Clear?
Yes.
You can also run your query in a console. So this is basically new service, but it is under the preview. You can open the query, you can run the query here. You can give the password and it will open. See, it is open. Here you can write the query and you can run it. Then go to the replica. So right now, this database have a single database and backup is configured. But let's suppose that your database is got corrupt or damaged. In that case, you can restore from the backup, but it will take time, right? It will restore from the backup. If you want a replica database for the high availability, so you can choose the replica database also. You need to create another database that is called replica database. So primary database will be replicate data to the replica database.
So, but when you selected the redundancy level at LRS, won't
Hmm.
two replicas be created automatically?
See, LRS is for the backup. So whatever your backup is taken, that store within the same region. That is
Okay.
LRS.
Mm.
Right. I am
Yes.
creating a replica. Replica means my primary database in East Asia. I can create a replica database in a Japan East or any other location.
So won't GRS take care of this? But that will be only with
GRS is take care for your backup only. Your backup will be a store in different location. Don't
uh,
understand.
no, sir.
Okay. No problem. What I am trying to say. This is your database, DB, right? In
Okay.
East Asia. East Asia, correct?
Yeah.
Now I take the backup. So this backup I can keep in East Asia only.
If it is LRS, yes.
If it is LRS, it is only East Asia.
Yes.
If East Asia region will down, then what happen? If East Asia region down,
Huh.
then your database will down as
Correct.
well as your backup also down.
Okay.
You can not restore your database from the backup because that is in a East Asia region that is down
Okay.
already.
Okay.
If I choose the GRS for my
Huh.
backup, in
West
that
Asia.
case, backup will be also replicate in other region.
Huh.
Other region, I have also backup. Maybe it's a Japanese.
Okay. It's okay. West Asia, na?
Yeah,
Generally. Okay.
West Asia. I'm taking an example. Maybe it's a
Oh,
West Asia or
okay.
Japanese, but different region, right?
Yes. Hmm.
So if entire East Asia region down,
Yeah.
then still I can restore. I can create a new database by use of this backup. That
Correct.
backup is available in Japanese.
Correct.
So that's a benefit of your GRS and LRS for the backup. But
Okay.
if I want a replica data, I don't rely on the backup. I don't
Hmm.
trust on the backup
Hmm.
due to any reason,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I want high availability and I want a replica database. So a new database you can create in a different region.
Okay.
This is East Asia, another is Japan East.
Hmm.
And here you created a replica database. So replica database will replicate your data in a live scenario. Backup will periodic. It will take backup, hourly backup. So you can miss 1 hour data or your backup is 2 hour or 1 day. That data you can miss. But
Hmm.
replica is live replication. Whatever you have here, that will
Mm-hmm.
be replicate immediately to the replica database.
Mm-hmm.
And due to any reason, if your database will be lost or damaged or corrupt, in that case, you can do the failover.
Mm.
And this replica database will become active.
Mm.
And you
Okay.
can connect directly this database and you can resume your operational activity, operational work.
So I have one more question then. So my primary database, I put it in East Asia with GRS
Correct,
redundancy. Okay.
correct,
Now,
correct,
in addition to it, I also say I want a replica database in say some other ABC region.
correct.
Now, I'll so every time say I make a commit to the database, a write statement.
Mhm.
What are the steps, sir? It will get committed first in primary, replica, and backup. How does it work?
Backup is not, there is no relation between backup and your replica.
Okay.
Backup is totally separate. It will take your backup. Maybe you have scheduled the backup 2 hours. So
Uh-huh.
every 2 hour backup will taken. Snapshot will taken in every 2 hour.
Okay. This is
That,
live connection. Okay.
yeah, this is totally separate. It is, there is no connection between your backup and your replica,
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
right?
Okay.
Shailesh,
Uh,
Shailesh.
uh,
First scenario we were discussing about this backup,
mhm,
and suppose we have a live site, and due to some reason this East Asia is down.
mhm.
So I mean, is it possible to quickly uh, create a SQL server and do up that SQL server through backup?
You can create another SQL server from this backup, definitely, but that will take some time.
Yeah, I mean because
1 hour, 1 hour, at least 2 hours. It will take
backup
time.
for for the purpose of I mean, in case we that node is getting down, so in that case, always this replica is a
Yes,
good option.
replica is always good option, but it will increase your cost.
Right.
So if your database very critical, you can choose the replica database, but it also increase your cost. That is only disadvantage, right?
Right.
So this is your replica. Now, this is a sync to other database. That is also a concept here. You can create a sync group. And within this sync group, you can add multiple database. Maybe you have two database on Azure, one database you have in on-premise, one database on a maybe some other region. You can add all the database in a single group, and all the database will be synced to each other. So if you make any changes on one database, that will also sync to other. So that's a benefit. You can create a sync group on the hub database. Member database and other additional setting can be configured after create the sync group details. So first you can create a hub database and then you can create a member database. So whatever the member database you have, it will have any changes, it will sync to hub database also. So that is the advanced level of, we are not using this type of basically in a general production environment. We don't do the mix up, but yeah, we have these features available. And if we need, we can use these features. Now, right now I have the database totally blank. There is nothing on that. I can restore the database, or I can export also. Export means whatever you have on this database that you can export and store. So what I will go, I will use the restore option, right? So for that, data will be restored. How I can do that? For that, I will download one sample database here. So Azure SQL sample database. So these are the database, the sample database. I am downloading this one, the lightweight. I am using this one, lightweight. So this is a downloaded here. This is a backup file basically, and I am restore from the backup. So this is the backup here. This is the backup database that is downloaded. Extension is BAK backup. Now how I can use this? So for that, I can click here restore. And then subscription source database. OK, not from here. Go to the server. Sorry, I need to go to the server. And then I can import the database from here. Click on import. And then you can select your backup database. And backup database you have to store on your storage account. So select the backup. That backup should be stored under the storage account. So if you have database backup and you want to create a new database from the backup, you have to store your backup database in a storage account, then you can use. So right now I don't have any storage account. I'll create a new storage account and then I will show you. Create a new storage account. Quickly, I'll create. LRS. And create a container within this storage account. Upload. Backup file. Okay, it's done. So go back to your database here, refresh. See, now it's recognized the storage account. Go to the container, select the database, backup database, this one backup file, select. So this is your subscription. I am not using the private link. I'm using the storage account, this one where I have the backup data. Pricing tier is this one. I don't want this such pricing tier, so I'll go to and change it to the basic. Apply. And rest everything in SQL admin is your user account, then give the password and click OK. So it will start creating a new database from the backup. Take some time. Then hold. Wait for a couple of minutes till it will complete.
So yesterday a call happened with you and Nagesh.
No, neither you join nor Nagesh.
Yes, I forgot. So yesterday it was a holiday. I forgot
Correct.
about the class.
I understand. I understand. I thought that today is holiday, so that's why no one joined.
Harpreet is a new joinee or
He is basically new joining.
okay.
Still, it is going on. Takes time. Meanwhile, discuss some other database like MySQL. So you can also create a MySQL database. So MySQL database, it is a open source. And similarly, the SQL database, you can create this database also. And you can use the like a flexible server or with the WordPress, you can also create. So go to the flexible, this one, first one. And here you can see your cost. You can estimate your cost, how much you want a CPU, how much. So a standard B1S have the one core and the cost is around 487. Storage is around 20 GB. So if you want, you can estimated cost is 600. You can change that also. The size you can change that. So you can change the size also, the compute size, the storage size, and then it will calculate your cost. And here you can select your all the other information like resource group, your server name, your region, SQL version, MySQL version. And then you want for a business tier. So this is for a business tier. If you want to go with the small or medium size, you can select the first one. If you want a development, in that case, you can select the third one. And then here you can go with the compute and storage. So whatever the size, you will select accordingly the cost. So if you go with the standard V4MS 4 core 16 GB of memory, the cost around 15,000. If I go to the smaller one, then cost around 1100 only. So whatever the size, you will select your CPU and your RAM, accordingly your cost will be. And the storage size is default is 20 GB. Default is 20 GB. You can increase the size accordingly. Also, the cost will be increased. You can go with the general purpose or you can go with the business critical. And you want in a processor, AMD processor or Intel processor. If you go to the AMD, you have the lower cost. If you go to the Intel, you have the higher cost because Intel is something costly than AMD. So this is also something you have, then you can save it. So this is your MySQL database. Go back to your, still it is going on, development in progress. Click OK. Still. So some error is failed. It is going on. Status is going on. So if you go to the SQL database right now, you have this one new SQL database is created. Some it is still going on, but the database is created. You can see Advantage Work database that I have created from the backup file. And it is created on the same server. If you go to the server here, SQL server, now you have two database. One database is this one, Agent Epo, and another is I have created from the backup, right? So I can connect this database also, and you can see you can run the query. This database is not a blank. It is created from the backup, so it have some data. Click OK. See, under the table you have some data here. Okay, still it is not showing. It is going on, no problem. It takes some time to 100%. Now you can also connect the backup database from the your SQL Server Management Studio. Refresh that once again. Refresh. Two database should be here. Database. So now you have two database here, Adventure and this one. So this is the way you can manage your SQL database. This is a as a admin. We are not discussing here as a developer as a database. That is the DBA work, right? We are just discussing this here. We have a discussion on the how you manage the database, how you do the administration task on Azure, how you can create a database, how you can set the firewall policy, how you can back up the database, what will the replication, what is the high availability, how you can restore or import the database. Those things we can discuss here, right? So that's it for the database. Tomorrow we'll discuss the NoSQL. That is a Cosmos DB.
Okay.
Any question?
No, sir, that nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, then fine. Thanks
Are
everyone.
we,
Thank you.
are we doing on Saturday or Monday?
No, not on Saturday. On Monday. Sorry, on Monday. We'll do on Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.